Thank you very much, Jaime, Breilh, Roberto, Passos, Nogueira, Paulo, for these three wonderful, brilliant, intense presentations that definitely call to reflection, but it's impossible to start a social determinant workshop with a deeper reflection than today. Unfortunately, we're kind of late. We're going to have the rest of the afternoon in order to discuss. We still have the presentation to be made by Marcelo, but we want now to open a couple of minutes for 4 to 5 questions of comments by the audience so that we can close this panel with actually final responses of the presenters. So now the floor is open to comments or questions directed to the speakers. Brazil has the floor first. Our brother, here in the back of the room, they have to use a mic for translation purposes. We're going to ask the 4 or 5 questions in a row. Yes, please, first the questions, and then we'll return the mic to the speakers.
I would like to ask you the following. You said at international fora, the issue of universal health systems, which we champion, had already evolved towards a position of coverage, universal coverage of health. I would like you to please better explain what's happening in the political plan, because this, to me, this sounds like a backward movement, a withdrawal. What means this position of our president nowadays? It looks like she's joining this idea of coverage and not of system. When in her campaign for presidents in the Congress in Gramado, she made a speech where she took an engagement with the single health system. I'd like you to analyze this from a political point of view.
Friend from Bolivia, please. Vara from Bolivia. Thank you very much. I think that the thoughts and reflections are very broad. They're very good guidelines for what we're going to face in the close future. There is an intention of questioning the determinants in health, and also the includes of determination of health term. So this is a change in attitude, and this is the responsibility of each of us present in this meeting. It's a process of receiving information for us. But in the first part, the intervention talk about the critical transformation action. And the second part is more a process of questioning the political position to the actors that make the decisions on health and the government. The third part, I think that there is a point that we should focus as countries that are part of different agreements and the WHO or PAHO. These organizations have submitted usually to the big countries, the larger countries, in a camouflage way. They have imposed resolutions that are passed as recommendations. But with the power, economical power and military power that they have, were able to comply those recommendations. And I think that we should question what is the capacity of this body. Is there only recommendations or there are sanctions? So we feel in the same right of complying or not with the decisions, because the change is not going to arrive in the easy way. I think that are very well correct from the point of view of Latin America. We are the countries that are emerging in different moments and questioning all the scaffolding of international power. And we should question ourselves the structures of these organizations from whom we always been part of and been submitted to. Thank you. We have opportunity to one or two questions more. Ecuador, and then Marcelo.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. I understand that there is enough reasons for this difference between social determinants of health and determination. It was explained very well by Jaime and Roberto also. But I think that sometimes there is a little bit of not understanding the complete activities that are carried by the national governments and international bodies. Our agency would Jaime use example of food in Brazil. Apart from the chemical contamination, they could refer to the process of food or the transgenic. But tobacco at the world level is not seen as a problem with health, but it's a very concrete way of intervention in a very dangerous and powerful industry that we're able to obtain results because international convention and agreement, and in the framework of this agreement, the countries are. This experience could show us what we could do in the future with all the dangerous industries like ultra-processes, food, or drug industry, or alcohol. Marcelo is going to make a comment now. It's a question to Jaime.
Jaime, pregunta para ti.
Regarding the potential of the diplomacy in health, the potential they have to transform global power structures, regional and global organizations. And this is when Jaime talked about the difficulties of the studies, this next between the investigations being carried out by the Simón Bolívar University and the results on how to reach a political environment. It's not only a problem of Ecuador or Brazil. The same thing happens in Paraguay. Everything that is contaminating, the pesticides are contaminating the food in Paraguay. Who has this? Who's behind all of this? And we should then say how we are developing this mechanism so to show exactly what's happening and articulate with other colleagues of the University of Simón Bolívar, with the Andean community, that the things that the academia finds as an axis could disseminate this. And we're talking about Mercosur because we're trying to strengthen this link between research and policies and politics, because things that are signed by presidents that when they meet could have a follow-up. The question is, there is a concrete mechanism in the Andean community regarding with the University of Simón Bolívar to deal with these issues and how they're doing this through networks or any other ways of working. Thank you, Marcelo. Last question? No. Well, we'll start. Jaime, what are your comments?
Oscar, ¿me escuchan? Escuchamos.
Okay, bueno.
I think that time is going to not be enough to everything that we should talk about, and I'm going to make a very short comment, and I want to stress some topics that I noted down on this issue. I'm going to start by the last one, when Hugo complained about why they do not recognize the importance of the effect of tobacco. Yes, it really has nothing to do with what I talked about. But the problem are not the governments, are the transnational companies, yes. And in this transnational line, I've guided the strength of my criticism. The example of dengue And the contamination of food is, yes, of course, it's not only pesticides that contaminate. We're seeing in Ecuador contamination of transgenic concerns us that in certain official places, people are trying to convince the political levels that there is no problem with transgenic. And antibiotics are being used in the shrimp or cattle industry. But the comments that have the problem is the strong lobby that affects the technocratical levels of the government to pressure, to penetrate in systems that are totally against health. I think it's very difficult to talk on an issue of a market or when it's a growth of the expansion of the monopolic property on the land, finances, or everything that Roberto mentioned. 1% that indicates the pace of the global configuration. And I think that at that point I will add to the reflections that I mentioned, the critical process that I think is most important. Of fourth, I heard Paulo. I hope that, I know that we are very good friends, Pablito, but that is really a problem that Paulo mentioned of activities that are not regulated of the corporations. Those are facts. And what we have to attack is that there is an institutionalized process, tolerated and open, of convergence of monopolic position regarding the use of land. And it's not only to fight against tobacco, because the most important problem in Ecuador is not tobacco, but the expansion of an industry and the import of a philosophy of a type of agro-industry that could end the few levels of economical support that we have in our country. So I would like to define as the critical process the crisis of the small ones. The crisis of the peasant economy, the small economy, and compared with the growth of the great monopolies. And that's the type of reasoning that we wanted to insist, because I think that there we have the center of this problem. The great process of social determination to the group of activities, and I agree with Paulo, of non-regulated corporation activities. There are some lines in WHO and United Nations regarding the conduct code of the great business. And there is a lack of complying of this and a lack of strength in reinforcing this. We could expect that the convergence here governments will repeat this and generate from the space that belong to them some conscience regarding these topics that are very serious. I think that is also very important not go towards the level. Well, I don't think that international documents are only rhetorical issues, but really they indicate guidelines that indicate areas of action and agendas, and including them in agenda, they distract the national and international bodies regarding the action on the great determination. I use an example of a way of destruction, with all respect to whatever it may hurt. The Rio Agenda Plus 20 are really destructing pieces, are terms that fill up all the areas of action, but are built in a certain way that are not guided towards the nucleus of this, to the center. they're going to continue being the owners of everything, continue growing. I have come from a meeting in Brazil where great experts of Brazilian reality exposed in detail, as was done by very well, the mega sporting events that Brazil has now, a World Football Cup and Olympic Games, with 2 years of difference. And you see how this are great offensives by the capital covering things and cheating the population with this. There are groups of monopoly control of the sports, and whatever it means for the Brazilian population, debate in this basis of how it should be done to take advantage of the next World Cup and the next Olympic Games. That's a fundamental challenge in sports. I think that Roberto, in new criticism, established some other critical points that we should take a look. But calling things by the names, I'd like to stress one of the agreements with Roberto from my proposal, that I believe that what we need in this managing in health and universities and the thought in public health is an agenda of transformation, not the agenda of transformation, but an agenda of transformation of the system of monopolic property and the accumulation of capital not controlled. That's a great topic. I think that's the eye of the hurricane. And we continue going around. We're going to be in several events, many meetings are going to be, and nothing's going to change. And how to develop this articulation, I think that at the international level we should.
I have heard also with great interest in UNASUR also there was a proposal of making a new financial architecture, and the new financial architecture that actually will be dedicated to health sovereignty. And when we talk to our colleagues and friends in the government of Ecuador, I told you, I believe that it's formidable to have the control of trade and the production for the public sector, South American sector, and also globally too. I think that this type of advancements is very good. The new financial architecture should be guided towards dissuading the big corporations, that big economic corporations, farming corporations actually, and also this in try to foster the development of small producers. This is what to actually promote. And this is what we have to do also when we talk about our discussion. I think that in this sense, we are in the same page. And we keep on believing that here, for example, my country's administration that represents an idea that it wants to have a transformation in the health system. I have no problems on that side. Quite the opposite. We are in support with our university. How can we work in a block? We have to recover not a reticular notion of the organization or the governance of this style that has been done many times, but we have to strengthen the different organizations, the native organizations, the trade unions. How can I put it? Not criminalizing the social protests or manifestations, but we have to incorporate actually the different social organizations, the peasants, the workers, the natives, the Afro-American descendants in the management of a new change. I do think that as far as we have a technocratic language, that things are done from the public sector also as a type of verticality. No, this is what actually fractures us and avoids a union between many sectors, a public strengthened sector, and we salute this strengthening with a social sector that is actually, that needs the public support to discuss actually these social ideas. So I believe that I have not been able to reach actually a conclusion, and I invite my colleagues of the audience to actually to read the documents. I think that you can actually hold a deeper debate after you read the documents. Thank you very much, Jaime. Now, Roberto's turn to respond to the questions posed to him.
Creio que vale a pena enfatizar aqui ao final que essa diferença entre determinação
I think that the difference between determination and determinants is not of words. We have deep things, contents involved in these concepts.
Fica evidente a
It's
partir do
obvious,
documento da OMS de 2008
as of the document of 2008,
a concepção
the
de determinantes
determinants
focada
is
nas
focused
desigualdades
in inequality in
a
health,
partir das desigualdades sociais e a partir dos fatores
as
que
of
ligam
social
uma coisa à
inequalities
outra.
and factors that
Não há
link one thing
nenhuma
to another.
abertura para
There's no
a teoria
opening
nem
for
para a
the
crítica.
theory or criticism.
Se faz
What we
nesse
do
documento,
in
bem
this
feito,
document,
eu
very
acho,
well
inclusive, que é
done. I
documento
think it is a
progressista, não é
progressive
documento reacionário,
document. It's not a
ele é
reactionary
progressista. No
document.
entanto,
However,
ele, de alguma forma,
and in
ao
a
falar de
specific way, when they're talking about determinants or
a quase que
establishing
impossibilidade
the
de
impossibility
pensar
of
o que é
thinking
processo
what
de
is
determinação
a determination
da saúde da
process
doença,
of
fora
health and
dos marcos
disease
tradicionais
out
da
of
epidemiologia,
traditional
bloqueia
framework,
bloqueia
it
o
blocks
nosso pensamento,
our
mas o pensamento de
thought,
movimento,
a
que é
thought
movimento
of a
da
movement
medicina social,
of social
o movimento
medicine,
da
the
saúde
movement
coletiva.
of
Eu acho
collective
que nós temos
health.
dois níveis.
I think we have
é
two
o
levels. One is the
político-institucional,
political
né,
institutional
das
level
organizações
of the
internacionais, ou aquele que é
international
interno a cada
companies,
país.
or the one
E
that
tem
is
do movimento
internal to
social,
each company,
que
and
nós
also
representamos
the
ainda, ou
social movement that we
pretendemos
represent
representar.
or we intend to
É possível
represent.
encontrar uma
It is
correlação
possible
e algum
to
tipo
find
de
a
concessão,
correlation and
né, entre uma linha e
among
outra.
one line
né?
and another.
E, por outro lado, nós
On the other hand,
fazemos aqui, né,
we
essa crítica
make this
para dizer que
criticism
não
to
queremos
say that
nós
we
que nos colocamos
that
nesses 40 anos, né, de
during
movimento
these 40 years
de
of
medicina social,
social
coletiva, não queremos abrir
medicine
mão
and collective
da
health
possibilidade
movement, we
de
do not want to
pensamento crítico, de pensamento teórico sobre a
stop
sociedade e a
thinking
história.
critically and theoretically about
Por isso
society
que,
and history.
às vezes,
So that's
podemos
why sometimes
taticamente fazer
we
acordo com as
make
visões
an
políticas institucionais.
with a
Mas,
vision
então, de
to
vez em quando,
institutional
temos que
policies.
retroceder
But sometimes we have to
para
go
aquela
backwards
base
to
de discussão como a que
that
foi colocado pelo Jaime Breilh,
discussion
que abre
that was mentioned by
para
Jaime
novas interpretações.
that opens to new
E essas interpretações
interpretation. This
não vêm do
interpretation
território da
don't
saúde,
come
não vêm
from
do
health
território da
field
epidemiologia,
or from
vem do
epidemiological
território
field. It
da
comes from
filosofia das
philosophy
ciências sociais.
and social
Então,
sciences.
é isso que nós queremos.
That's what we
Não
want.
e no fundo, não estamos colocando uma luta
We're
contra a
not
concepção do
fighting
OMS.
against the
Nós
understanding
queremos que há
of
outras
WHO.
possibilidades de
We
concepção
want
tenham
other
espaço que
possibilities
possam
of
vingar,
understanding can
né,
have a
academicamente
space
e na
and be
militância
accepted
dessa área em todo o
academically
continente. É isso aí.
and in our fight in the whole continent.
Gracias, Roberto.
Thank you,
Cerramos
Roberto.
con
Thank you,
Paulo.
Roberto. Now we give the floor to Paulo for his final comments.
I will restrict myself to the issue mentioned by Crescencio.
Portunhol. E, de fato, a discussão que está
The
estabelecida
discussion that has been set on the table is universal coverage in universal systems, which is, as I mentioned, universal coverage. It's a concept which is restricted, which is very limited, because it has to do with a vision as stated in the available documents as being a dimension of the care given to patients through in order to avoid catastrophic expenditures in health, avoiding that the people will be living in poverty, and this would be through the possibility of somebody acquiring actually have a private contract, actually brokered by the public sector, to have health care, and other things as minimum packages in health care, which is the worst scenario that we have. And this is what we recall from the 90s, which was terrible. On the report of the World Bank of that time. In another dimension, we find the universal health systems that are the care, integrated care, equitable health care, and health care is not just care for the for patients, comprehensive care. Healthcare, it will be equitable or integrated, comprehensive, charity, and participatory too, and based on rights, and not based on the purchase that I can make of something that is going to defend me personally only, including, there's no one word, it's unbelievable, in the World Health Organization document, there's no mention made on public health. The public health is never mentioned in the document. The issue of the surveillance, the issue of social determination, nothing is being mentioned. It's always healthcare and healthcare to patients. But we do understand that it's a sub, which is something that comes as an objective for development, as a goal for development, but a goal which is instrumental goal. The goal or sustainable development is to optimize health in every level of, in every step of life. That's why we need universal systems, but also we need water. We also need quality of life that's involved also in the other sustainable development goals, of the Millennium Goals. This is very important because this has to be clearly understood in the discussion. We talk about the positions that are on the table in the international arena. Thank you very much once again to Jaime, to Roberto, and to Paulo. Now we have 20 minutes coffee break, and then we'll come back to our self-presentation and the debate so that we can wrap up the afternoon, actually, and we'll have the final discussion. Thank you.